So my presentation is on mental health and IT, safeguarding our most precious resource, which is us, the people, not anybody else, because people are the most important resource we have when it comes to protecting our mental health. A little bit about me. I'm not going to go over all these icons, don't worry. I've been dubbed a database superhero because of a lot of my volunteer work. I work with DocuSign. I've got lots of years of experience. The easiest way to reach me is to go to databasesuperhero.com, and you can get my email, my Twitter. My DMs are open for anything. I do like to talk about my North Carolina guardian ad litem child advocate work, where I have advocated for 63 children at this point over 18 years as their advocate in court, as foster kids advocate in court, to make sure that they have a better outcome in life. I do have my mental health first aid training, which expires in 2022 or 23. So I did get a little bit of training in mental health first aid. Not that I'm an expert in it or anything. I'm just an expert in real life experience more so than anything else. So I'm going to put a little disclaimer out here because I do tell a lot of toxic workplace stories throughout here if I remember them all. So this person actually tweeted when I did this for the WIT user group that I tell horrific toxic stories. And if I'm listening to these stories and it sounds familiar, you do not have to work there. You should use your SQL family help tag and get out of that job ASAP. As well as suicide is actually mentioned in this presentation. So if you're thinking of suicide, please reach out for help. And I'll be reminding of you that throughout the presentation as well when those things do come up. Some objectives for this presentation are to discuss our workplace causes of mental health challenges, discuss ways you can help yourself, discuss ways to help others, discuss how an employer can help people, provide plenty of resources for you to walk away. I've got 6 or 7 slides of links. A little bit more about who I am because, you know, I have to have disclaimers. I'm not a mental health professional in no shape or form or matter. I do suffer from mental health issues, and I will go over those diagnoses in a little bit. My work has been affected by my mental health from a personal perspective. Work has affected my mental health from the perspective of things that have happened at work and caused me issues. And I decided I was ready to talk about it publicly and raise awareness about it after some issues that happened in 2018. Then I've done a lot of research on the subject as it relates to IT, so that would apply to to the community that I talk to as far as giving presentations. I found this quote that mental health isn't just mental illness, it's just part of being human. It's just as important as your physical health, and it shouldn't be treated any differently or any less important as your physical health. So some positive mental health things that you would see if you were having positive mental health is that you're able to realize your full potential. So you're able to do things without having any issues, and you're able to, you know, volunteer in your communities. You're able to just cope with the stresses of life without any major issues. You know, they just kind of fall off your shoulders without, you know, you getting down and out or, you know, suffering from them. Your productivity at work maintains its normal level. You make contributions to your communities, whether that be, you know, taking your kids to soccer practice, volunteering in the communities, you know, making contributions to church, any number of things that you could do volunteer-wise or just, you know, inside your own families. The mental health illness population in general in the United States, in a given year, 25% of people suffer from a mental health disorder. In IT, it was found by a survey in 2018 that goes up to 42%, which sounds pretty high when you compare it to the 25%. A survey in the UK goes up to 48%. So this is an industry-wide thing that goes on. My first interaction for you guys is, have you had a mental health issue in the last year? So if you are logged into the app, you should be able to answer yes or no. And then we will see what we get as far as our answer. So I'm going to give you a few seconds to try to answer that question and see if we can't get our 7 attendees to go ahead and answer. I got 4 out of 7 so far. 5 out of 7. If I don't get everybody, that's okay. Okay, we will move on. And it did not show it. What a bummer. Oh, there it goes. So my answer is 80% of people have said yes. So that's out of 5 votes. So that's a lot of people, and given that we had 5 people answer. So that's that shows that we do have a prevalent issue in IT. Given that, especially with the pandemic going on, I'm sure that has played a factor in it. This is just a general list of mental health disorders. We're mainly going to concentrate on the fact that, what we get caused by work is anxiety disorders and depression. There is a number of other issues that can be prevalent that are chronic issues, as you can see on here. ADHD, bipolar disorder, and things like that are just chronic issues that you can't do much about. PTSD, things like that. So a little bit about why I'm speaking out now. I have a lot of personal experience with this. Back in 2018, I had a lot of issues. I'm tired of the stigma. A lot of people feel guarded and they're afraid to talk about stuff and find out about things. And your life is kind of colored through the lens that you can see. When you're depressed, everything looks dark and gloomy, like you can see in this picture. And people need to realize they're not alone. If you feel alone when you're depressed or manic or anxious, then you just feel like you have no one you can talk to. And then I looked at the stats for a number of reasons. We'll see some stats that are global, plus in IT, that support the fact that, this is a topic that needs to be talked about. A little bit about my story back in 2018. I call it the debacle of the summer of 2018. So I started out with a job change in June, which within 2 weeks, they laid off half the company because it was a 40-person company. And then I had a friend. Then I went to LA for a SQL Saturday, and I got in a car wreck that spun the car around in a 180 and scared the crap out of me to the point where I didn't want to drive in LA anymore. But I had a whole week left in LA to do vacationing. And then I had a friend that went into a crisis. Meanwhile, I was traveling to SQL Saturdays every other week. And it caused me a lot of anxiety with the job change, and I changed therapists. And so I spun into mania with my bipolar, and I actually landed into a psychiatric hospital for a week. And it literally took me a year to get stable after all this. So a little bit about my actual diagnoses, because I just don't have depression and anxiety. I do have bipolar, PTSD, and anxiety. I think that's all. Hopefully that's all. Some work stressors I've had over the years is being on call. I've had jobs where I've been on call 24/7, which is no fun at all. I've had jobs where people just don't answer their pager, so I'm the one that gets called in the middle of the night. I've been a developer before, and even in SQL Server world, you're a developer at some point, and the demands are unrealistic sometimes. And just having layoffs at a number of companies have made me nervous, as to the point where, hey, are you going to be next or not? Some stats as far as IT goes is 86% of people would not discuss with their employer at all their mental health, which means, you're not going to get any help from your manager at all as far as getting your situation under control. 44% aren't aware of even what their healthcare coverage has as far as mental health goes, which is, not a good thing to have when you have issues. 63% say their employer has not formally discussed mental health. Well, I'm lucky my employer has, and has actually given us extra benefits during COVID to help us out. Some general stats as far as the whole industry goes, as far as the whole world goes, not just IT in itself, is $1 trillion is lost to productivity globally every year due to mental health issues. That's a lot of money being burnt up. 210.5 billion is just due to depression alone, because people can't function very well when they're depressed. 69 billion is due to suicide, which is the 10th leading cause of death in 2019 in the US, 18th worldwide in 2016. Again, if you're thinking of suicide, get some help, call a hotline. There's a number of people willing to talk to you about that. And worldwide, 80,000 people die from suicide a year. For every death, there is at least 20 attempts at committing suicide. So as far as suicide goes, there's a number of people in the SQL community that have put out on Twitter that they're willing to talk to people anonymously. I happen to be one of them, but this is 3 other people that have said they're willing to talk to people. But please seek help. Don't think you're alone in thinking these things. There's other people that think about this. I have a tendency to think about it on a regular basis, and it's not fun. There are hotlines to call in just about every country, so there's no reason to suffer alone. And do plan ahead. If you do have a tendency to think about this stuff, have a plan as to what you can do to prevent it, and friends you can call and things like that. And tell your friends ahead of time what they can do to help you. And do have a doctor or therapist if this is something that's chronic that you go through. This is the WHO Mental Health Suicide Rate Map for 2016. The United States ranks like in the 2nd category. Russia's pretty bad. So we have some room for improvement. So on to some workplace causes of causing mental health issues. Number 1 on here, easy enough, is just stress. Then stress causes burnout. Burnout is a big one. Getting harassed at work can cause it, and getting bullied at work. Those are the 4 main things. As far as stress and burnout, they kind of go together. A poll of 11,000 people revealed that 56% of people reported that they're stressed or burnout. There's a website called burnoutindex.org where you can go engage whether you're burnout. I was surprised when I took this back in 2018 that I was actually burnt out, and I think I'm just chronically burnt out. I don't think I know how not to be burnt out, to be honest. Every time I've taken it, I've been burnt out. So the stress and burnout can come from just being on call all the time. And, when you're on call, you got to keep things up 24/7. You got to make sure things don't break. And you're just, you got to have your computer with you. You can't leave the house. Your pager's going off. You got too many emails in your inbox. The 24/7 uptimes are a nightmare to keep up with, especially when you need 5 nines. Trying to meet deadlines. I used to have a job where, they would give me something at 5 p.m. and expect it to be done at 8 a.m. the next day, which is just not realistic. Being constantly on, I do believe we need to turn off our cell phones at some point and not look at them. And like when you go home, stick them in a basket for at least a couple hours and get a break from them if we can, especially if we're not on call. And the burnout is usually caused by prolonged intense stress. So the longer you're stressed out, the more likely you are to get burnout. And you feel a lack of control from being stressed out. So you're just, because you are so stressed out, you just feel like you can't control anything that's going on in your life, including work. It just bleeds over into your personal life, and you can't control it anymore. You go home and you're stressed out from work, and you take it out on whoever's at home, and you just lost control at this point. Harassment and bullying. I like to sign no more mean people. I wish they existed at work, but I've had stories of yelling and rude comments at work. I had a coworker one time who something broke when I was away from my desk, and he came over yelling at me, wanting to know what I did. It's like, it's hard to do something when you're not at your desk. I've had people make rude comments about the clothing I wear at work. Evidently wearing white socks is not a good thing at work. I don't know why. Making fun of colleagues. I've had a manager that was 5'2", and the other managers are like 6 foot tall, and they're picking on him all the time about his height. That's not appropriate. Picking on people about their religion, picking on people about the types of food they eat. Just not cool. I've been sexually harassed at work. I've had basically this one dude just kind of stalked me at work and stood over my cubicle and was watching everything I did. And he would find out things I was doing outside of work and be commenting on it. And it was just creepy as all get out. I mentioned people picking on your religion. So, have you ever experienced any of these workplace factors in mental health issues? And you can pick more than one of these. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to pick some of those out of you 7 people that are still logged in. Well, we got a good 5 or 7 people picking for stuff. I'm going to assume the other 2 don't want to participate because they didn't participate the last time, but we'll give them a few more seconds. So 100% of people are like, I've been stressed out. 80% of people have been burnt out of the 5 people. 40% have been harassed and 40% have been bullied out of the 5 that answered. So that just shows you that these things have happened at work and are, prevalent things that have happened. So how mental health can affect anyone? Where'd my slide deck go? Oh no, don't do that. No, I hate when it does that. Sorry, PowerPoint locked up. I have to restart it and bring it back up. Yeah, I know, nothing like doing it in real time, man.
There's a first time for everything, right? You run through it 100 times and then it's So I think that so I know that to perhaps digress just slightly, your slide lizard piece is some of it, that's working, right? That was a new thing and that seems to be going well.
Yeah, I like it because it gives it a little bit more interaction and stuff. So
sure.
Now all we gotta do is fast forward.
Gotta go back to the beginning.
Yeah. How do I fast forward?
So one thing I'm not sure if I missed it on your agenda. Are you gonna talk about coping strategies, for lack of a better word?
Yes.
Awesome.
I do have coping strategies, and I do have a section on getting past the darn pandemic. So, as I put it, and then when the pandemic goes away, I do have plans to have stuff to replace that. So,
good deal. Thank you, Tracy.
So, no problem. So, how mental health can affect anybody? It can make you sad or irritable. It can give you extreme mood changes, highs and lows, because you can go up and down. Wait a minute, I should share my screen again. That would be helpful, instead of you just seeing me. Where'd it go? There we go. You can have excessive fears and worry or anxiety, and that goes into the anxiety thing as especially when you get sexually harassed and bullied at work and you're burnt out and stuff. You start feeling like you can't meet your deadlines and stuff. You start pulling away from people and activities, which is very easy to do during the pandemic. You start getting changes in sleep and eating habits, which is a major one for me. I have that happen to me a lot when I'm going through things. And you have trouble concentrating at work, which can lead to mistakes and things like that. Different ways it has affected me. I've had some negatives and positives. I've missed work. I was out of work the whole month of June because I had an episode. I have lack of focus sometimes, lack of motivation. I sometimes tweet out on Twitter, "Where's my motivation?" because I lose it. Some positives I have because I have bipolar is I can get some extreme energy and I can stay up all night patching all the servers. I work well under stress. Sometimes if I'm in mania, I can just like zoom through things. So this is a self-evaluation I want us to go through. So kind of pay attention because we're going to have a poll at the end to see which one that you think you're in, whether you're thriving, surviving, struggling, or in crisis. So this is based on a firefighter one, but I find that it applies to everybody. So if you're thriving, you kind of got this and you're calm and steady. You just got minor mood fluctuations. So you basically got everything under control. You're able to take things in stride. So when things change, you're not, upset about it. You've got consistent performance at work. You're able to take feedback and things like that without thinking it's criticism, and you're able to focus. Again, if you're thriving, you're able to communicate effectively without, having anything negative come out of it. Your sleep patterns and appetite are normal. If you're just getting along and surviving, this means you've got a little bit of issues, but not anything major. You start getting nervous and sad and more increase in your mood fluctuations, but again, just a little bit. Your performance starts getting a little bit inconsistent. You're more easily overwhelmed or irritated with people. You have an increased need to control things around you and difficulty adjusting to changes. So when changes come your way, you're just like, I don't want to deal with that. And you start having trouble sleeping or eating, not major trouble or sleeping and eating, just a little bit. Again, your activities and relationships with people, you don't enjoy them anymore. You quite frankly find them stressful to deal with. And you might start getting muscle tension and low energy and headaches. And this is when you need a massage. So if you're struggling, this is probably when you need to start seeking out some help of some sort. Your fear and panic is just persistent. You might even start having panic attacks. You just feel exhausted. You have very poor performance, difficulty making decisions. You can't concentrate. You just feel fatigue. You even have aches and pains at this point. You're just avoiding everybody. It's like, I don't want to deal with nobody. You've got very disturbed sleep. And you might be self-medicating on something, even if it's just food or video games or binge watching TV. Now, if you're in crisis, this is a major area where you need help. Yeah, you got a disability, distress, and loss of function. You may not even be able to get out of bed at this point. Or you're just moping around the house and barely able to think. You start having panic attacks over things, especially if you got anxiety. You might have nightmares or flashbacks about things that happen at work. I have a tendency to overthink things and think that every little mistake I made is just like the end of the world, is what I associate with that. You have trouble sleeping or staying asleep. Yeah, lots of intrusive thoughts about things at work. And you might even be thinking of self-harm or suicide. Again, get help on that and don't do anything that's permanent to a temporary problem. You get easily enraged or aggressive with people around you. You start making careless mistakes because of your inability to focus, which causes you problems at work because careless mistakes can cause big outages at work or problems with you with your job. And you start feeling numb, lost, and out of control. I mean, when you start feeling numb, you're just, you just don't care anymore. And you start withdrawing from all your relationships. And again, you start numbing out with different coping skills, whether it be food or video games or TV, substances, and so forth. So how would you score yourself on that self-evaluation? Let's see if we can get some votes on that. So are you thriving and you got this, surviving at this point, struggling, or in crisis? So far we got 3 votes, 4 or 5 votes. We got 2 people that just don't want to vote. That's okay. Ooh, we got 8 people attending now. Ooh, we got 6 votes. And we shall see what we got as results. So we're 50-50 on surviving and thriving, or is that struggling? Those are really close together on colors. I'm going to go with surviving and thriving. So that's actually pretty good, given that we have the pandemic going on. So I say you guys are doing really well. I'm impressed. So 10 ways to avoid burnout in IT. This is where we're starting to get to the coping skills Carlos was asking about. So one thing is to take time off. I mean, a lot of us don't use our PTO. We should be using it. I wish we had more. Unfortunately, some of us don't get a lot of it. Identify stressful tasks at work that you may be able to talk to your boss about taking on and giving to someone else to do, or dividing it up so that you're not the only one doing it. Unplug at the end of the day. Try to get rid of your phone. Stay off your computer. Do something that is fun. Eat well and exercise. You'll be surprised at how important this is for when you're having mental health issues, and just in general, how well this makes you feel. Socialize with people. It's very hard to do, but Zoom is free for 45 minutes. Telephones are free, FaceTime, anything, so that you can get out there and talk to people at least once a week and get a group of people together and try to talk. Develop some sort of plan where you escape, whether it's going for a walk in a greenway or going away for the weekend. Just do something to help yourself out in those type of areas. Get plenty of sleep. Try not to only be sleeping 4 and 5 hours a night. Cross-train people at work that can do your job, so that when you're out of work for that time off that you took up before, you don't have to come back and be behind on everything. And learn to say no to stuff. You may have to tell your boss, hey, I'm overworked right now. I don't have time to do stuff. So some other ways you can take care of yourself. We already mentioned this stuff. Eat well, exercise, and sleep. Develop hobbies away from the computer. Get away from social media. Social media is so negative. But I do have a recommendation for Twitter. Chris Lemire has a GitHub repository that has a whole bunch of muted words that you can put into Twitter. You have to enter them one by one. But it gets rid of so much negative stuff that your Twitter looks awesome. Just totally awesome. And then I added COVID, and no offense to any political party people, but I put Biden and Trump and Clinton and anybody running for presidential office in there every time that there is a presidential election, so that I didn't have to worry about it. Do some light therapy if you're not getting outside enough. Buy you one of those light lamps to get some stuff done. Get some relaxation training, some meditation, some yoga, something to help you relax and calm your mind. Again, spend time with friends and family when you can, given that there's COVID going on. Some other places to get some help is when stuff's going on at work. You need to talk to your boss when you've got the harassment and bullying going on, the stress and the burnout. If that doesn't work, you may need to go up a notch and talk to HR. If it's just something that you think you can deal with outside of work, you can talk to a friend about it, and maybe just venting will work. You may need to see a therapist if it's affecting your mental health enough. You may need to see a doctor to get on some medication. There is nothing wrong with seeing a therapist or a doctor. It may be something that you do temporarily. I personally think everybody at some point in life probably needs to see a therapist for something, and it's just temporary. And seeing a doctor for medication can be temporary as well. And then you just, you get where you need to do and you get off of it. So what you can do as a friend to help other people is listen non-judgmentally. Don't ask them, questions that are attacking. Just listen. That's sometimes the best thing you can do without asking too many questions. Ask questions that show you care more so than attacking them. How can I help? Can I take you to a therapist or a doctor? Can we go for a walk? Can, I bring you meals to your house? Ask them how you can help. Be patient with them. Sometimes they don't want to talk. So you just got to, try to pull it out of them and just let them talk at their own pace. Don't be critical of what they're saying. Don't tell them just because they're, thinking that something is negative. Don't try to tell them that they shouldn't be thinking it's negative. If you hadn't heard from some friends in a while, and you might need to check on them and see how things are going, because they may be going through something that they don't need, that they need someone to check in on them. Don't be confrontational. So don't go up to them and be like, hey, you just don't need to be thinking about that. It's just not the right way to do this, and and be going off on them about what they're thinking about. But do be honest about your concerns. If you think they need help, tell them so, and do it with what they need to be doing. Some things not to say to people, because I've been told all these things, is pull yourself together, because when people are down and out, that's not easy to do. Snapping out of it, you snap your fingers, that doesn't really work. Just pray about it. Praying is a nice thing to do, but it does not necessarily fix things. Telling them you have the same illness as my friend such and such does not fix things, because everybody is different. Just distract yourself. Again, developing hobbies is a way to distract yourself, but it does not fix things. You don't need medication. If somebody's on medication, please do not tell them that. I've been told that so many times. Stop acting crazy. Don't use the word crazy. Stop worrying about it. Cheer up. Therapy is for people who are weak. My dad told me this one, so I had to include that one in there. Things will be better in the morning. It's just like, take aspirin a day type thing. It just doesn't, you just don't sleep off depression or anxiety. And just stop focusing on the bad stuff. It's hard to do that when you're already in the depression and anxiety stage of things. You've got to do things differently to help them out. Things you can say to people is that they can be honest with you and you want to listen. Ask them if they want to go for a walk, because sometimes getting them out and getting them exercise does help. If they're in treatment, or as far as a therapist or doctor, ask them how it's going, show interest in that type of stuff. Ask them if you can find them help if they're not. Ask them how they're really doing, because sometimes if you just ask how you're doing, you're just going to get fine, okay, and not get a real answer. Ask them if they want to go out and do something. I know with COVID that's hard, but there is outdoors. Tell them how glad you are to have them in their life. Remind them that, they are important and that they are a, important person. and that they're special and that they deserve to be in your life and they deserve better than what they have right now. And remind them of a special memory that you guys have, because that will help cheer them up to a certain extent. It won't pull them out of it, but it will help rise their moods a little bit. So how can an employer help achieve wellness? One is to create open vacation policies. Having, vacation policies that are limited to a certain number of weeks is kind of, dicey. So having it where it's open, a lot of people won't take more than a certain number of days anyways. Flexible work arrangements. Some people aren't morning people. Some people are more about coming in later than others. Honor the 40-hour work week. It's been known that working 11 plus hours a day doubles the risk of depression. Also, midlife cognitive loss after working 55 hours per week happens, and you just get poorer performance in vocabulary, reasoning, information processing, and so forth. And it can be a predictor of early dementia and death by working too much. So, and respect people's boundaries. If they need to be out of work for some reason, don't ask too many questions. Let them have doctor's appointments and things like that. Reconsider having open plan office layouts, because a lot of those things are not too well. Women have a tendency to feel they're watched and judged, and they report more sexual harassment in those type of environments. And have comprehensive health insurance that includes mental health. Educate yourself and learn to develop empathy for employees that have mental health issues. There's a link at the end for workplace mental health topics that you can go to and learn about all kinds of different mental health stuff and how to work with those things. Provide accommodations for employees. There's, again, a website for that. And in America, there's ADA, where you have to do that if they declare themselves disabled for that. And lead by example. Set your own healthy boundaries. I have bosses that work way too many hours, so they don't have healthy boundaries. Practice your own self-care. Make sure that you are taking care of yourself, and ask for help when you need it as well. What employers gain from helping out is they get better attitudes towards mental health and a decreased stigma in the workplace, so people are more willing to talk about it. The employees feel more engaged at work. You get an increased productivity and creativity at work because people are feeling better at work and not feeling depressed and anxious. There's an overall well-being and sense of well-being, so you don't have the decreased productivity and, stepping on eggshells at work. They trust the workplace more. They feel satisfied in the leadership, which makes them feel like they can stay with the company longer. They develop more interpersonal relationships at work with the different employees and amongst the teams. They have a more commitment towards the company and more loyalty, so they're less likely to leave. They have a decreased inefficiency and errors, which is great because you don't have to worry about things like that affecting your company and things getting messed up. People stay out of work less, less employee turnover, less revenue lost to people missing work. And the good news is 80% of treated employees report improvements. So now, how to survive the darn pandemic and keeping your mental health intact. So this section won't take too long because some of this stuff is a little bit repeated because of some of this is the same coping skills. So one is staying connected. So schedule some socials between people, use some Zooms, FaceTime, so forth and so forth. Don't just text people because it's a little bit not personal. Check in on others that you hadn't heard from in a while. Share some experiences that you're going through. Not all negative ones, of course. Try to remain calm. Don't panic. Turn off the news. I recommend getting your news from government websites and like the WHO instead of getting it from local news. And do stuff for yourself. Anything. Go for a run, read a book, clean a house, play video games, something to clear your mind where you're not just, worried about what's going on with the news and the number of people that are dying per day and all that stuff. Develop a sense of happiness. Get outside if you can, so you're getting your vitamin D. Get some exercise. Except you aren't perfect. A lot of people are trying to be perfect from working from home, and it's just not very maintainable. Look for the positives that are going on. I have given up on making gratitude lists and have started making, hey, what are the 3 positive things that have happened today? We talked about practicing mindfulness, which is, yoga or meditation, so that you can just, feel at peace. Develop some coping skills, set your boundaries between life and work, walk away from that computer at the end of the day. Have a designated work area. If you don't have a designated work area, shut down the computer and move it away from wherever you're working and reset it up the next day. Establish a routine close to what you had before the pandemic. So if you had like a 30-minute commute, do something during that 30 minutes instead of getting used to it, because you may end up back in the office afterwards. Take breaks. You aren't at your desk 8 hours a day at work. You get up, move around, you talk to people, so forth and so forth. So you need to get up and walk around when you're at home, even if it's just outside down the block and back, or downstairs, or to the refrigerator. Go talk to one of your family members, something. As far as your health, remember your physical and mental health are intertwined, and they're both just as important. Get outside again if you can. Exercise again. There's a lot of videos that were made available online due to the pandemic. We mentioned meditation, yoga, eating healthy. Sleep is very important. Stress has a tendency to mess us up. Try not to work in your bedrooms, because anything you do in your bedroom has a tendency to mess up your sleep unless it's something you're supposed to be doing in your bedroom. Stay off work after hours unless you have to be on there. Lastly, get a sense of fulfillment. Your productivity can feel down when you're working remotely if you're not used to working remotely, but you can only do so much, especially if you have children in the house. You just do what you can. Don't overwork. If you, do your 8 hours a day, set your expectations with your boss, take regular breaks, chat with people, set up an agreement with your boss on what your realistic goals are based on your situation at home. Stick to some sort of routine. Get a sense of accomplishment even with small things. Set up a to-do list that lists just the small things you can get done for the day and feel good about checking those off. And again, look out for others that might be feeling alone. I go back to this quote: mental health isn't just mental illness, it's part of being human. Here's some podcasts to listen to. I probably need to update this list because some of these have went off and I listen to more now. Here's a whole bunch of links that some of the community has written. The very last one, he contacted me during Mental Health Awareness Month, I think last year, and wanted to do something based on mental health awareness. So that is a whole T-Sequel Tuesday with a whole bunch of people that wrote about mental health awareness. And then there's some other blog posts that people have written. And then here goes a whole bunch of resources. And then I put the self-evaluation again at the end, just so it's easier to find. And then I will see if there's any questions and say thank you. And then if you will leave feedback via Slide Lizard, there's only a couple of questions there. Tell me if I did good, if there's anything I can change, if you didn't like something, so forth and so forth. You'll see the questions if you are in Slide Lizard, the 8 people that are there. So, is there any questions? Let's see, go to Q&A. I don't see any polls.
Yeah, on the AirMeet side, I'm not seeing any. I have a couple. Well, I guess maybe a thought, right? Okay. How do I frame this question? So for example, one of the things you mentioned is, right, you're talking to somebody, because we all struggle. So this week, right, Mariano, Amanda, and I were trying to both finalize our past summit sessions, get SQL Trail ready, and run a business, right, all at the same time. And there were a lot of there were a lot of deadlines, right, all happening at once. And so we all, are impacted by stress, right? That kind of, varying degrees. But you talked about it in reaching out, right? You know that somebody's a little bit down. So they're maybe more than off, right? This is a trend. You're talking with them. Your experience of sharing the story, sharing a shared experience with them, right, to help kind of pull them out. What is I guess maybe you'll forgive me that I meander through my thoughts here, but particular case. So let's say you're the person who is now down, right? They've just shared the story, right? Is it somewhat a matter of being like, hey, you know what? I don't know, embracing the fact that I'm a little bit better now, but I'm not all the way better, and that's okay too, right?
Yeah, the saying is it's okay not to be okay.
Okay, not to be okay.
I have a shirt that says that.
There you go. It must be true then, right?
Yeah, it's just a matter of how, if you're getting too far down, you definitely want to reach out and talk to somebody. Whether it be a close friend, somebody, like me that doesn't mind talking to people, whether it be a professional. It just depends on who you're comfortable talking to. A friend, a relative. It's best to reach out to somebody, at least vent. I know with like all your deadlines, I felt the same thing. I just pulled out a whole bunch of speaking engagements because I have a medical issue with my medication. So I had to pull out of stuff because I literally can't concentrate on anything technical right now. So I'm only doing this presentation and this presentation again in December. I pulled out everything else for the rest of the year.
Gotcha.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
That was the best I could do.
Well, that's right. I would say, to your comment of sometimes you got to say no, right? And help yourself out. I do think that so the small and simple things, and I know it generally in IT, we tend not to be the best about diet or exercise, right? Those are not, we don't lead the charges in those categories, right? And
I say schedule time on your calendar for exercise. And if you don't have time on your calendar for exercise, you're doing too much. Because that should be a top priority on your calendar. If you do not have time on your calendar for exercise, you need to cut something.
Cut something out. Yeah, that's fair, right? So do that for yourself.
Yeah, because that is
said than done, right?
I'm so guilty of it. Like I said, I give advice and I follow some of it to a certain degree. But like I said, you've got to, at some point, you've got to do what's best for you.
That's right.
So if you don't have time for exercise based on your calendar, you have got to literally set aside some time on your calendar every day that this is my exercise time.
Right.
Like an hour in the morning, 30 minutes in the morning, whatever it happens to be. Go out for a walk, unless it's raining or too cold.
Sure.
Get something, go to the gym.
And this is where I think, again, so having that somebody to reach out to, I mean, it's, again, easier said than done. But I can remember working for a company, and now, of course, we worked kind of in a corporate area, and there was a pond we could walk around. But we actually got into the habit of going out for milkshakes, which again, probably not the healthiest. But we could walk across, to the store and get some milkshakes, and or to the restaurant. And I remember that was our key word, Jason Coates and I. and we were working together, and one of us would be like, "Is it time for a milkshake?" And we'd be like, "Yep, let's go," right? Because sometimes we just needed to get away, and that became our routine. And so, the milkshake was the carrot, right? But I think it is that idea. If we can find something to help keep us in those patterns, it makes sense.
Yeah. Like I said, I try to keep a consistent schedule because of my bipolar. I need to.
Sure.
It's very important. And I think other people should too, just because it helps you out. I mean, if you got a fairly consistent schedule, it helps you out. If you know what time you're waking up, know about what time you're going to sleep, know what you're going to do in the morning, have a morning routine, have a evening routine that gets you set up to go to sleep, know when you're going to do what during the day. Of course, you got this big block of time where you're going to work.
Sure.
Trying to set a time for all the activities that you were doing for Summit, SQL Trail, you name something else. I know that was hard for me. Like I said, I had to pull out Summit.
Oh, gotcha.
I was doing a pre-con and a regular session, and I had to bail on it last week because of my medication not being available.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And I'm operating at 25% technically wise.
Oh boy. Well, gosh. Well, then we appreciate you, Tracy, coming on and talking with us about this today. Right? We know that's a load, and so we appreciate you sharing your experience.
Yeah, I got lots of experience to share.
Well, I think right. I mean, having the conversation and helping people recognize, right, that right. So get in front of it.
Now, like I said, it's okay not to be okay, and then just work your way up to being okay. That's why hopefully I gave enough coping skills to help out with that. So, and then, like I said, reach out to people that might be able to help you and hold you accountable. And, I know, like, I've been trying to connect to people through my Garmin watch and my Peloton, because I got a Peloton bike.
Oh, nice.
And so
it's good to be Tracy.
So it's not really working because I haven't exercised in over a week, but I try.
Well, okay, so next time, compañeros, right here at this conference in a couple of days. Now we're gonna do it so nicely, right? Safe place, right? But we're gonna if you engage with Tracy on social media, right? We're gonna encourage her to get on her bike, right? Or her, Peloton there, right? Let's find out how she's doing. Maybe a little peer pressure can be helpful in that regard. So
yeah, it might be helpful. I'm going to be out of town this weekend, so don't start until Monday.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks again, Tracy. We appreciate it.
No problem.
Data Partner.